Okay, so let's just jump right in. In early 2024, the entire internet as we know it, well, it almost broke, and I am not exaggerating here. A disaster of a scale we've never seen before, a sort of digital doomsday, was quietly unfolding right under our noses, and pretty much nobody had a clue. A sophisticated attacker was just moments away from getting a master key to our entire digital world. Just let that sink in for a second. Weeks. That is how close we came. This wasn't some, theoretical what-if vulnerability. Nope. This was a live, active threat, already deployed and just waiting in the pre-release versions of major software that run millions of servers all over the globe. The trap was literally set. And the fallout? Oh, it would have been catastrophic. With this one single key, an attacker could have just waltzed into secure servers at banks, hospitals, even governments. They could have spied on communications, stolen secrets, shut down critical infrastructure, you name it. This wasn't just a hack. This was a potential geopolitical weapon waiting to be fired. So that's the big question, isn't it? How did we get so vulnerable? How could one malicious actor get this close to compromising the foundational systems that our entire modern world runs on? Well, to understand that, we need to take a step back and look at the very ideology that our digital world is built on. The target of this attack was Linux, which is probably the most important operating system you've never directly used. It's like the invisible engine running behind the scenes of almost everything you do online. And its core philosophy of open collaboration is what makes it so incredibly powerful and, as we're about to find out, so dangerously vulnerable. You can basically think of software as having two big philosophies. On one hand, you've got proprietary software. Think Windows or Mac OS, where the code is like a secret recipe locked up tight by a single company. But on the other hand, you have open source software, and that's where Linux lives. In that world, the code is public. Anyone can see it, anyone can use it, and a whole community helps build it. And that collaborative model is exactly what allowed Linux to spread everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. Every single one of the world's top 500 supercomputers runs on Linux. It's used in the Pentagon, on nuclear submarines. The Android phone in your pocket? Yeah, that's built on Linux. The vast majority of servers that host the websites you visit every day? All Linux. It really is the bedrock of the modern world. But here's the paradox. This massive, world-spanning ecosystem of open software, its greatest strength is also its fatal weakness. Because this giant, incredible structure is often built on top of thousands of tiny individual projects, and a lot of them are barely supported at all. And this right here perfectly illustrates the problem. It's a famous comic from XKCD, and it shows the entire modern digital world balanced precariously on this one small, thankless project that's maintained by some random person. It's not just a funny cartoon. It is a terrifyingly accurate depiction of reality. So in our story, that tiny critical block is a data compression tool called XZUtils. It's an incredibly efficient piece of software, so good that it was adopted by nearly every major version of Linux. And for almost 2 decades, it was maintained almost entirely by one person, a Finnish volunteer named Lasse Colin. Lasse poured his life into this project, for free. But lately, he'd started burning out. The community started pressuring him, complaining about slow development. And his response here is just heartbreaking. He's struggling with his mental health, reminding everyone this is an unpaid hobby. He was at his breaking point. And that is exactly when the predator arrived. This wasn't a simple smash-and-grab attack. No, this was one of the most patient and sophisticated cyber heists ever attempted. Just as Lasse was feeling completely overwhelmed, a new contributor appeared. Someone who seemed incredibly helpful, super competent. Someone who went by the name Gia Tan. This was a 2-year-long social engineering campaign. Gia Tan patiently submitted useful code, building trust. At the exact same time, fake accounts, almost certainly controlled by the same attacker, publicly harassed Lasse, dialing up the pressure. Finally, an exhausted Lasse handed over control to Gia Tan, who now had the keys to the kingdom. And with that power, Gia Tan inserted the backdoor. And honestly, it was a work of devious genius. First, the malicious code was hidden inside test files that just look like garbage data, a perfect Trojan horse that no one inspects. Second, it used an incredibly complex series of steps to hijack the secure login process at just the right microsecond, not too early, not too late. And third, like a cat burglar, it was designed to be totally invisible, responding only to its master's secret key, and then erasing any trace it was ever there. So after 2 years of meticulous planning, the trap was set. It was undetectable, it was perfect. And it would have worked, if not for a complete and total accident. The entire multi-million-dollar nation-state level operation was unraveled by a half-second delay that almost nobody would have ever noticed. To understand how it was found, we need to talk about latency. Latency is just the technical term for a delay. It's that tiny bit of time it takes for a computer to respond to a command. We're usually talking about milliseconds here, the blink of an eye, and it's something engineers are always trying to minimize. And this is our hero. Andres Freund, a developer at Microsoft, was just doing some routine performance testing on a pre-release version of some software. He wasn't looking for a backdoor, but he noticed something odd. Logging in was taking about half a second, 500 milliseconds, longer than it should. It was such a tiny clue, one that most people would have just ignored. But Andres was curious, and that curiosity saved the internet. Andres' discovery kicked off this frantic, worldwide effort to figure out what had just happened. And it raised two terrifying questions. Who on earth was capable of pulling off an attack this sophisticated? And what does this mean for the future security of everything we rely on?
So who is Jiatan? Well, the short answer is, we don't know for sure, and we probably never will. Jiatan was a ghost, a completely manufactured identity that just vanished the moment the backdoor was discovered. But there are clues, the patience, the resources, the sheer sophistication. This was not some lone hacker in a basement. This had all the hallmarks of a well-funded nation-state intelligence agency. Some clues point to China's time zone, but then others seem designed to misdirect. Other activity points towards Russia. But in the end, it doesn't really matter who it was. What matters is that they are out there, and they will try this again. Now, some people have argued this whole thing is a failure of open source, but that's got it exactly backward. The only reason this was found at all is because the project was open, because Andres Freund, a random developer from a different company, was able to inspect the code, notice an anomaly, and raise the alarm. In a closed-door system, this backdoor might still be there, operating silently in the dark. So the crucial point here is that the vulnerability wasn't the code, it was the people. This quote from Richard Jones at Red Hat just gets to the heart of it. We built a global, multi-trillion-dollar economy on the gift of free labor from people like Lasse Collin, and then we burned them out. We created the perfect conditions for an attacker to exploit. And that leaves us with this final critical question. This entire incident was a huge wake-up call. It revealed that the foundations of our digital civilization are maintained by a handful of unsupported, unpaid, and overworked volunteers. They are the guardians of our infrastructure, and we nearly let them fall. So the question we all have to ask ourselves is, what are we going to do about it?